Dark Souls, a series known and loved by many, notorious for their incredibly hard boss fights and dark world. They're so famous, in fact, they even have their own gaming category called Souls-like. But over the past couple months, I've decided to give them all a shot, and I gotta say, I have been very pleasantly impressed. I like the Dark Souls series so much, I even played a couple Souls-like games right after it. And I gotta tell you, these games are hard as shit. So I thought I'd go through all the games I've played so far in this series and rank the hardest bosses from each game. And I gotta note that these are the hardest bosses, in my opinion, that happened to me. I mean, I'm sure there's other bosses that are harder in the game for other people, but these are the ones that gave me the most trouble. The games I'll be talking about today are Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Elden Ring, Sekiro, Lies of P, and Black Myth Wukong. And also Hollow Knight Silksong. It's not a Dark Souls game, but I really liked it when I played it, and it was really hard. Also, I want to note real quick that I have not played Bloodborne. Everyone has been telling me to play Bloodborne, but I do not have a PlayStation, and there is no PC port, or at least not an official one yet, so that is going to have to wait for another day. There is only one criteria for how I'm ranking everything: how much I struggled with them. While I was streaming these games, people were telling me that certain bosses are going to be the hardest ones in the game, and I sometimes would breeze right through them. And other bosses, they'd be a walk in the park for most people, and I would get my ass handed to me. So with that note out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with our first ranking. Sweet. Oh, damn, it looks cool. Number 8, Darklurker from Dark Souls 2. I fucking hate this boss. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of cool things about Darklurker. I definitely like the design, and some of the, moves are pretty cool, but I hate it. I hate this boss. Now, first things first, Dark Souls 2. I think it's a pretty good game. I liked it. But it is definitely a black sheep of the Dark Souls series. It's not that it's bad, it's just that there's some things I don't like about it, like how healing is so slow. They give you life gems. Some of the combat seems a little wonky. And I absolutely despise the system they have where every time you die you get less max health unless you use an effigy. And speaking of effigies, you have to sacrifice one every single attempt on this boss. Now at this point of the game, effigies aren't hard to come by per se, but whenever you're going against this guy for a solid 3 hours, you end up getting a little annoyed that you keep having to make pit stops to get more and more effigies. And after you pay your fee of one effigy, you still have to go against a couple of off-brand idiots who are just a pain in the ass that are just there to siphon a little bit of healing from you. Now, luckily for me, or maybe rather unluckily, someone told me that if I beat them about 15 times, I'll just end up not spawning anymore. And I hit that limit, so most of my attempts I was able to just walk through. And I'll say this with an honest heart, I will take the biggest, cheesiest, stupidest boss over a boss that summons duplicates or summons minions. I'll take that any day of the week. I can't stand when there's two bosses I have to fight at the same time. Mix that with a couple of nuke moves and getting near one shot on almost every single hit, and this is a pretty rough boss fight, and definitely the hardest of Dark Souls 2. Now I will say, for most of my time here, I was not properly utilizing most of the best weapons that I had at my disposal, and it kind of just ended up being a pain in the ass for about 2 hours until I went to go level up a different weapon, in which case I definitely was doing a lot more damage and made things a whole lot easier. But I would be lying if I said I didn't get a little heated during this boss fight, and trying to find areas and ways to actually hit the boss was pretty difficult, especially with a couple of teleport moves and they float up in the air. Just made things way more difficult. But eventually I did get a stronger weapon and made things a lot easier to do a lot more damage, especially whenever they stacked up and I was able to hit both of them at once to make it a nice, clean, easy kill. My overall time spent on this boss was 2 hours and 50 minutes. And that does include me switching over to a different weapon and having to go level it up. Overall, just bad. Not my favorite boss, but looking back, I was just spending most of that time banging my head up against a brick wall and trying to use a weapon that didn't work. Oh, okay, it is a boss fight. Okay, but still, I don't like killing Granny. Look at my fuck ass face. I loved Dark Souls 3. It was easily the best of the original trilogy. The combat was seamless, the bosses looked amazing. Having said that, while I was streaming Dark Souls 3, someone told me to come stab this lady in the back. And that opened up a whole can of whoop ass for me. The dancer in Dark Souls 3 gave me hell. And that can be attributed to many reasons. But the main reason was I was highly underleveled for what I was trying to do. Just 2 hours into Dark Souls 3 and I was going up against a mid to end game level boss while only being level 17. And yes, she did serve me up on a silver platter almost instantly.
Dude, if I was doing more damage, I would have more confidence, but I'm literally hitting her with like a fucking pixie stick. Okay, I was actually hitting her with a foam noodle, so great.
The Dancer of Boreal Valley was my muse throughout Dark Souls 3. Every time I'd gain 5 levels or pick up a new and interesting looking weapon, I would always head back to Dancer and try to give it another shot. During the course of 3 streams, I would throw myself at Dancer and get absolutely wrecked every single time. It took dozens of attempts getting new weapons and leveling up about 40 times for me to actually stand a chance. But when I finally got a decent weapon and I was able to survive more than 1 hit, the real fight began. Dancer isn't the most terrifying boss in the world, but she did give me the most trouble. Generally her attacks are kind of slow, but she does hit like a brick, and she will randomly turn into a Beyblade and just let her rip. And eventually I was able to finally avoid her Beyblade attack, and after that it was pretty much lights out. I say that, but through all my attempts, I probably ended up spending just shy of 3 hours on her. She was a pain in the ass, but a very cool boss. I like the way she kind of lurks around while in the fight, and then her attacks are very flowy. It's kind of like water, and she's also got that little dress that kind of flows around with her. It's a very cool looking boss with a very interesting moveset. But I guess the most annoying thing about her was user error. I kept coming back, getting one-tapped, and wondering why this is so hard. And I didn't really even put it together for quite a while that I'm very underleveled, and I probably shouldn't be doing this right now. I really did like Dark Souls 3, but I gotta be honest, a lot of the bosses I kinda just floated through. Not a whole lot of the bosses took me over an hour to beat. And even though most people will say Dancer is an easy peasy boss that's no big deal, she holds a special place in my heart because she kicked my ass.
Oh my god. Oh my god, I did it! Woo! Oh, my pants are undone. Hold on. Oh my god, I did it. Oh. What?
Number 6, Groal the Great. Alright, time for the dark horse of this list, Hollow Knight Silksong. Now I know Hollow Knight Silksong isn't exactly a Souls-like game, but I still played it recently, thought it was really hard, so I thought I might as well put it on the list. I love Hollow Knight Silksong. It's an amazing game. I really like it. But this boss, Groal the Great, is one of the biggest pains in the ass I have ever experienced in a video game. Let me preface this by saying the boss himself isn't that bad. He's a big grotesque frog looking thing that only really has like 4 moves, and all of them are pretty easy to avoid, but the real struggle is everything around the boss. First things first, just to get to him, the run back is a massive pain in the ass. Not only is the run back long, not only is there multiple enemies that you have to fight, not only do you have to avoid all the spikes and do some really annoying platforming, but if at any point you fall into the green soup, say bye-bye to any kind of healing or any spells, because that shit completely devoids that, and you're kind of stuck right off the bat before you even get started with the boss fight. So if you get past all the platforming and the enemies and the spikes, and you don't get poisoned, well, congratulations, you have a chance to go into the gauntlet that's before the boss fight, where there's about 6 stages that you have to kill everything before Groal even shows up. This was an absolute horrid experience. I'll say again, the boss himself isn't really that big of a deal. He only has a couple moves, and then every now and then he'll summon some minions that are easy to avoid. But the main thing is, you can't get hit at all, because like I said, you'll most likely fall into the soup, well, you won't be able to heal anymore. Now eventually I was able to get a hold of the run back, and I was able to relatively easily get through the gauntlet. The thing is, this guy still sucks. While his moveset isn't the hardest, he does have one move that'll probably get you. It's those little boogers that he shoots out, and every now and then it'll get a lucky bounce and hit you right where you're standing. And funnily enough, the most dangerous thing about this guy is his actual body. See, Hollow Knight Silksong is one of those games where if you just tap the boss, you will take damage and you will probably die. And while that's not a huge deal if you can get your timing right, every now and then you'll be pogoing him and he'll just float straight up into the ceiling and he'll hit you no matter what, because there's nowhere to go. Groal, to this day, is still one of the bosses that took me the most amount of time to beat. Very rarely does a boss ever take me almost 4 hours to beat, but damn it if this guy didn't pass that bar. Another extremely annoying thing about this boss is that there's no health bars, so you never know how close you're gonna get, and after every single hit you keep thinking this'll be the one, this'll be the one, this'll be the one, but he never actually dies, and eventually it feels like you hit him 60 times just for him to keep living and then hit you one more time so you die and you have no idea how much health he had left. Fun fact, this was my most concurrent viewer stream ever while fighting this guy. All things considered, between TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube, I had about 250 viewers watching me. And yes, I was shitting my pants because I was wanting to win every single time to try to impress everyone. And I eventually learned that the harpoon was the best way to close the distance while also leading up for an easy pogo. I had to play extremely passive because I did not want to fall into the soup and lose my ability to heal. And even though on the winning run I did eventually fall into the soup, I was able to barely squeak out a win, not even by shooting him, but by using an ability that every time I took damage it would leave a little clone of me that would explode after a short period of time, which clutched it up for me. Thank God. All things considered, it took me just shy of 4 hours to beat this guy, and I gotta say, if I didn't have chat cheering me on, things would have gotten broken, and it would have, and I probably would have just quit the game altogether. But luckily, I had everyone there cheering me on, and I was able to pull through.
Let's fucking go! Yes!
I have no idea what you become.
Shit!
Father, it breaks my heart.
Hold on. I was drinking.
Putting you down.
Why? You don't even know who I am.
Number 5, Prime Owl. Sekiro was a game I really enjoyed. I really had a fun time playing it, and I gotta tell you, there was a huge learning curve trying to figure out how to parry, because all throughout my whole Dark Souls run, I never parried a single time, which made this game a real big pain in the ass to get started with. And even though Ishin is technically the final boss of the game, I think this part of the game, fighting Prime Owl, was definitely the big boss that I had a hard time with. Oddly enough, it was a tie between him and Jozu, which is a guy that's just kind of randomly there. He's not even like a real big named boss, but he's just kind of an extremely difficult mini boss. And he was giving me a huge pain in the ass, but I just had to go for Owl anyways. We had a fight with Owl in the modern day in the game, and it was a tough fight for me. And then when I heard that you had to go back in time to beat him at his prime, I prepared myself for the worst. And I gotta tell you, he was clocking my shit. This guy was kicking my ass. He was so aggressive, and he had this gunpowder move that I absolutely could not figure out for the longest time, and it got me killed dozens of times. The nice thing about this boss is that there's no major run back, so learning this boss comes pretty easy because there's no downtime, there's no real other enemies that you have to fight. You can just take them on again and again and again, bang your head up against that wall until you finally learn his shit, and then you can start finally doing damage to him. This motherfucker likes to roll, he likes to stomp, he likes to punch, he likes to throw shit at you, he does everything, and it's really annoying. It doesn't help that Sekiro actively punishes passive players, because if you take a second to heal, or back up, or catch your breath, or figure out what he's trying to do, his stance meter at the top of the screen will slowly shrink over time, and he is one of the characters in the game that have the fastest shrink time, so if you, like I said, even back up a little bit, you're just kind of erasing some of your progress. You gotta be on his ass, full on, pedal to the metal, don't give him time to breathe, because that's the only way you can really win against this guy is if you get his meter all the way filled. You have to do it twice in order to completely kill him. And on top of that, you have to learn every single move that he has. You have to learn when to perfectly counter, and you also have to know how to perfect parry everything. This is the prime skill check boss. He will test you on pretty much everything that you have to know in this game. And if you mess up even a little bit, well, damn, there goes all your progress. Well, damn, there goes your healing. And not to mention, he hits like a fucking tank. He will two-shot you at any point in time. And not to mention, every now and then, he'll throw stuff at you just to get a little bit more hit damage in there, which makes things all the more difficult. And that's just his first phase, by the way. It took me over an hour just to get to his second phase. Where his second phase, he summons an owl that not only blinds your camera every now and then, but he also uses as a fire attack, which also got me killed a couple times before a chatter told me I could just jump over it. But I didn't read that for like a solid 20 minutes or so, which is my bad. Also, in his second phase, he'll just randomly phase out of existence just to teleport above you. Luckily, it's pretty easily telegraphed, but every now and then it'll get you off guard and do a shit ton of damage. Fortunately, or rather unfortunately maybe, there is no real big secret to this boss. It's literally just put on the pressure, learn the parries, learn the moves, jump over the fire owl, and then just keep it up. That's really it. And it took me a long time to figure it out. Overall, I think it took me about 2.5 hours. And I really like this boss. I like the arena. I like his moveset. The only thing that ever really got me, that really pissed me off, was occasionally he'd throw the gunpowder or do a big slam down attack, and it looked like I would dodge, but somehow the hitbox would hit me. But that didn't happen too often. But I will say that did cost me a couple extra kinks in my controller. Overall, Primal looks cool, his moveset's cool, he's voiced by Reinhardt from Overwatch, and this fight's also very important narratively, so all things come together just to make this a pretty cool experience.
Defeated. This is not entirely unpleasant.
Yeah, she got the Buster Blader sword too. All steampunk and shit. That's pretty fucking cool. I mean, that's just pretty cool. Oh boy, this looks like it's gonna be a pain in the ass.
Number 4, Laxasia the Complete. Lies of P was probably the biggest surprise I've ever had in gaming. I didn't know anything about this game, and I actually didn't even know it was a Pinocchio game until the day before I started playing it. This game did absolutely nothing but impress me the whole time I played it, and honestly, I gotta say, one of my favorite games I've probably ever played. It ran smooth, the combat was smooth, the boss fights are cool as hell, the story is great, and all those points come together with Laxasia the Complete. This lightning-wielding Goliath of a woman was one of my favorite bosses in the entire game, but not my favorite boss. We'll get to him maybe on a different list. If there's one term I could use to describe her, it's raw strength and speed. She is split into 2 different phases. Phase 1 sees her wearing this giant hulking armor and focusing primarily on huge combos and really heavy attacks. While she's not the fastest she could be in Phase 1, you miss one parry in one of her combos and you'll pay the price. Her combo attack, specifically one, is absolutely devastating unless you are absolutely perfect. While Phase 1 did give me some grief in the beginning, it didn't take me too long to figure out the timing for most of her combo attacks. And eventually I was able to get through Phase 1 almost unscathed. But then she gets into Phase 2, and real quick, I am obligated to do this. My God, I think we have a winner for the finest one on this list. And look, I'm half joking, half not. I'm not even lying to you. There were a couple of times where I was actively getting distracted because her whole ass is out. I could see her fucking asshole winking at me halfway through the fight, and you can't just not get distracted by it. Phase 2 Laxasia is probably the hardest part of this entire game. I beat her on the highest difficulty, and I don't even know how. I don't have any idea what her Phase 2 moveset is, I just got kinda lucky. You see, for Phase 2, she sheds her armor and focuses purely on speed, while also hitting like a truck. They do give you a small handicap in this phase where she flies up in the air, and if you perfect parry the thunderballs she's sending your way, it does a good chunk of her health. But other than that, she is raw speed. She is on your ass. She is zipping, zapping all over the place, looking like Killua out there. And not to mention, if you don't break her shield in Phase 1, she can use it in Phase 2 to block quite a bit of your attacks. Altogether, Laxasia is just a fucking powerhouse. A perfect combination of strength, speed, and beauty. To be honest, I didn't really have a major plan to beat her. She is a human, so she's weak to poison, but I didn't even really use it that much. I don't even think in my winning run I got a poison proc off on her. Either way, I think the best way you can just do it is just learning her moves. Like I keep saying, put your head up against that brick wall and figure out her moves, figure out when to parry, and then hopefully, eventually, you can outlast her like I did. And look, the main thing is you can't get distracted by the yams, dog, okay? Like, I know it was a big factor for me. I don't know if it's a factor for everyone else, but for me, it was definitely making me, my reaction time a little slower than normal. Overall, Laxasia is just one of my absolute favorite bosses throughout this entire series, and I am very happy that I beat her when I did. And even in the winning run that I had against her, I had no real faith that I was going to beat her because I had such a shitty start and I didn't even break her shield. But I guess I awakened that dog in me and just decided to parry every single attack she had. And when it came down to it, me and her were neck and neck, one shot each, and I was able to get my last hit off before she was able to kill me. Peak boss, peak game, and definitely one of the hardest bosses I had to fight over the past couple months.
I did it! I did it! I did it! I did it! Yes! Oh my, I had no faith in that run. No faith in that run.
I can't kill that monkey. No one can. Except himself. But at last, I see. This is the only way. He had no choice. And neither did I.
Number 3, Erlang. The last of 5 secret bosses throughout the game of Black Myth Wukong to give you this secret ending is definitely the hardest boss in this game, and it's not even close. Black Myth Wukong was another game I knew nothing about, but chat said it was good, so I decided to play it. And man oh man, did they not disappoint. This game was actually amazing, especially on the visuals. This game looked fucking beautiful. There are a lot of things that make Erlang such a difficult boss. His base combos are very quick. Every now and then he summons a dog to do extra damage to you. He's got several light speed attacks and 4 different phases within his 1 health bar. After each phase, he gets a new weapon or a new move that increases his arsenal and makes everything just so much more difficult. And then to add even more onto that, he can counter your spells and throw them right back at you and knock you out of your transformation. And then the last thing I want to talk about for now, at least, is that he also has a shield that he can replenish at any time, and you have to destroy that shield to do damage to him. And it is a tanky motherfucker. The one saving grace for this boss is actually the combat mechanics of Black Myth Wukong itself. Maybe it's just because I came from Sekiro and Lies of P right before this game, but it definitely feels like this game is very generous when it comes to dodging and iframes. More often than not, if you don't know what to do and you just start panic rolling, this is the one game where panic rolling might actually help. And you have multiple spells that are just get out of jail free cards that really help in the heat of the battle. So with all that in mind, this really became a battle of attrition. The real question became, can you break his shield and do a decent amount of damage before he gets his shield back? And how many times can you do that before dying? And that is much easier said than done. Trying to do damage to this guy is so difficult. See, generally within the fights of Black Myth Wukong, you would perfect dodge and get small hits in to build up your attack meter to do one giant attack that would do a decent amount of damage to the enemy. And for some fucking reason, they thought it would be a really cool idea to make this boss be able to dodge that heavy attack. And that was, without a shadow of a doubt, the most frustrating part of this entire boss fight. You spend 30 seconds to a full minute trying to build up this attack. You may even use a spell to try to immobilize him or freeze him or something like that, but for some reason, this guy will almost always dodge that heavy attack, unless he is like mid-attack, and you have to time that pretty perfectly if you want it to hit. Now, luckily, chat told me about a support weapon you get at the end of Chapter 5, which, I'm not even gonna lie to you, that was the only way that made this boss even close to possible for me. The fan that you get at the end of Chapter 5 is actually the shield breaker. See, every time you use the fan, it pretty much guarantees that his shield will break, which means you can get easy free hits in. The only downside is that the fan's cooldown is extremely long, and the only way to get it back is through excessive hits on the boss. And so with that, my entire game plan changed to revolve around the fan and only the fan. It pretty much became, use the fan, try to do as much damage as you can before you get your shield back. If you have a free open spot for an attack, use the whirl attack to try to get the fan back as quick as possible and try to survive until then. And that was my whole strategy for beating Erlang. Overall, Erlang is definitely one of the hardest bosses I had to go against during this series. And that could be contributed to his wide range of attacks. He has like 20-something attacks that he can hit you with at any given moment. Some of them are light speed, some of them have wide sweeps, some of them have AoE attacks. Sometimes he doesn't get stunned, sometimes he'll throw the stuns right back at you, and every now and then he'll just say, fuck it, I don't want that to hit me, and it just doesn't hit him. And the one time I actually got him super low, and I was very confident I was gonna win, I started to do what I do best, which is choke in high pressure situation. With only 10% health left and me having plenty of healing left over, I almost choked this so hard, but luckily in the end, I was just barely able to squeak it out. And for your trouble for beating one of the hardest bosses in the game, you are rewarded with one of the coolest boss fights known to man. After you officially beat Little Erlang, you get transported up into the sky where you guys become giants, and you have this giant cinematic, awesome, just badass fight. It just kicks ass, and you can't lose, so it's kind of just a literal reward. But I'm not counting that second half of the fight because it's not really like, I don't think you can actually lose. It's more of like an interactive cinematic than anything else, and it does kick ass. Like, oh my god, it was like this is like the coolest boss fight I think I've ever seen in a video game. But even though Erlang took me less time than his yellow counterpart, this is still the one boss in the whole game that pushed me to my absolute limits and took me just under 3 hours to beat. Great game though.
What my favorite boss fight that I've probably seen in like the entire Dark Souls run, bro. That was just awesome. I'm so fucking fat. No, this guy looks like a pushover. Let's be real. I mean, let's be real. This guy looks like a bunch of nothing. This guy's all talk. Ow. Number 2, Manus. Now, I already know what some of you are thinking. What is a Dark Souls 1 boss doing this high on this list? And I gotta be real with you, I don't know either. Manus from Dark Souls 1 is the one boss throughout this entire series that took me over 4 hours. Manus, Dark Souls 1. Arguably the easiest Dark Souls game that there is. Now, there are several reasons why Manus is this high up, and I'm gonna say it. The number one reason is game mechanics. See, this was my first Dark Souls game, and even though this is at the very, very end of my playthrough, so I've already completed the rest of Dark Souls 1, it still took me by surprise how hard this boss was. See, I have to let it be known. Throughout the entirety of me trying this boss, I had the same armor, the same weapons, the same healing, the same loadout for 4 hours straight. And for some reason, I could not get down the time to roll. And not to mention, stamina is a huge component in this game, which I still, even at this point, was not really amazing at keeping track of my stamina. And on top of those two things, this guy hits like a nuke. Specifically, one move that got me over and over and over again. It's his little magic shotgun. If you are within range, say goodbye, you're dead, you're screwed, pack it up, back to the lobby, you're done. Manus' moveset might be simple, and in retrospect, it is very slow, but for some reason, my brain had the hardest time trying to figure out his stutter attacks, as well as figuring out what is actually his body and what is blending in with the pitch black background. In his first phase, his big sweep attack is devastating. He had several attacks that just slammed the ground and did a shit ton of damage. Having to conserve stamina to not only attack but dodge at any given moment was very difficult, and occasionally he would do a small combo, and if you tried to roll onto every single hit, you would not have enough stamina to actually attack him. And then when you get to the second half of the boss fight, behold, he uses magic that does so much more damage than anything else that he's done so far. And not to be overlooked, this has one of the most aggravating runbacks in the entire Dark Souls series. The path might seem straightforward and bland with humanity moving so slow, but the humanity isn't the problem. It's this one guy at the top of this one cliff that will shoot you not only off of the pillar, but if he hits you, he does an ungodly amount of damage. And there were multiple times where he can hit you twice and insta-kill you before you even get to Manus. It took me many times and even a few cracks in my controller before I figured out that you could probably bait one attack, and then if you time it right, you can roll past the second. And I never even really got the hang of it. It was just kind of a shot in the dark. Speaking of shot in the dark, this entire arena is pitch black with a boss that is pitch black. I can't see a goddamn thing. But having said all of that, I am still shocked with how long this took me when the boss fight is so straightforward. I'm tempted to actually go back in and try to do it again. This boss was not fun for me in the slightest.
and it's one of the very few times where I actually beat one of the hardest bosses in the game, and I don't celebrate at all because I am just pissed. Looking back, if I were to try to fight him now, it probably wouldn't take me nearly as long to beat him, but since he took so long, I had to put respect on his name and put him this high. But damn, it was a horrible experience, and I do not want to go back to it again. Manus, suck my balls. I will never fight you again.
That's his horse.
He looks like Ganon.
He does look like Ganon.
It's actually crazy intimidating. This is young Radahn, so this is prime Radahn, huh? Without being maddened or rotted by millennia. Holy shit. Fucking intimidating.
And the #1 spot goes to Prime Consort Radahn from the Elden Ring DLC. And a lot of people probably aren't surprised. I have always heard that Prime Consort Radahn is the hardest boss in all of Elden Ring, and Elden Ring is one of the hardest Dark Souls games, so I mean, you just gotta put 2 and 2 together. Now, one little caveat I want to say before talking about Prime Consort Radahn. About 2 years ago, I did play Elden Ring as my first ever Souls-like game. I completed the base game all by myself, and I even got to the DLC, but I, for the life of me, could not get past Mesmer. And after a couple of hours, I decided to drop it and then just go to the next game. And so for my second playthrough of the game, I wanted to do something a little different, and so me and my friend Radley used the Seamless Co-op mod to go through the entire game, DLC and all. That did not make this boss any easier. Prime Consort Radahn, without any exaggeration, is a fucking monster. This guy has it all. He has a massive health pool. He hits hard as shit. He can fly. He can shoot projectiles. And if he wants to, he can even summon stands to attack for him. And all of that is before he gets a femboy on his shoulder. PCR is without a doubt the most intimidating boss I have ever seen. Even though we were playing co-op and we were kind of being goofy with it, I was sitting here trying to think of a way that I could beat him alone. And I do not think I could have done it alone unless I gave it like a solid 12 hours straight of attempts. And even then, that's a big if. Not only do most of his attacks hit super hard, but a lot of them leave after effects. They leave small explosions. He can go up into the air and become a meteor and come down and nuke the entire place. He can nuke. He has like 5 nukes at. He has like 5 nuke attacks that just destroy the entire arena. And if you don't have the pinpoint accuracy to dodge at the perfect time, you are going to die. And then to top it off, not only does he have a gravity suck attack, but he also has combos for days. He will just keep going and going and going. And then as soon as you think everything's going your way, the little femboy on his shoulder will come out and give you a hug. And if he does that twice, it's an instant L. Me and Radley tried this guy for hours over multiple streams, and we genuinely had the hardest time to even get him down to his second phase. Now it is important to note real quick that we are doing the Seamless Co-op mod, so all bosses have double the health, and I think they may even hit a little harder as well. But either way, this guy was just a monster that we could not actually beat in a fair fight. Now what do I mean by a fair fight? Well, unfortunately, we had to end up kind of cheesing him a little bit. Now, whether or not you think cheesing things is a viable strategy or not, that's up to you. But to me, using a giant great shield to block every single attack that he throws at you, and then you just poke him with a trident 1,000 times to give him a death by 1,000 cuts, I think that's a little cheesy, you know? And we didn't even think to do that until Chatter told us to do it. Shout out Joey Baloney. Even though it only took us a couple tries to beat him after we decided cheese, I still put PCR at the very top of this list because if I was alone, I genuinely do not think I would be able to beat him. But shout out my boy Radley for clutching it up and holding that giant shield for the both of us, because we did end up beating the McLester and his bodyguard, even though it took us about as much cheese as in your local pizzeria. So with all that being said, without a shadow of a doubt, PCR Prime Consort Radahn is easily the hardest boss I've had to go against so far, and honestly, I don't think I can beat him.
Fuck a fat fucking toast, bitch!
God, it's all on you!
No, you... Thank you.
Wait. Oh! I just clutched with the hammer! I just clutched with the hammer!
Yeah,
Joe!
totally. Oh.
Yo, what's up, the patient? No, I clutched with the hammer.
Oh,
what are
we
you talking
did
about?
it.
I just killed him with the hammer.
Remembrance of a god and a lord.
Hi there. You've been listening to my voice this whole time, if it wasn't clear. And I just wanted to hop in at the end of this video and just say thank you for watching the whole thing. Or even if you cut around, I mean, hey, thanks for that too. I just wanted to hop in real quick and say that all the clips that I used in this video came from my live streams. And I live stream almost every single day at 8 p.m. Central Time. So if you want to get more involved with the live streams, or maybe tell me something I missed, like a secret, or, I might even potentially, I was thinking about it, going through and trying to 100% some of these games. And if you have some tips and tricks that might be beneficial for me, hey, I'll always welcome you down on the live stream. Also, this is probably the longest video I've ever actually made, so if you do like videos like this where they're a little bit longer and I kind of go more in depth on my own thoughts and all that good stuff, leave a like or a comment or something like that. Tell me that you like this type of video because, I mean, I'll read every comment and feedback is always nice no matter what. But I gotta say, I've been having so much fun playing these games and live streaming and having chatters coming and going and everyone just having good vibes. Hey, it's a great experience in there. But yeah, like I said, if you do like videos like this, let me know. I have a couple of ideas for maybe some other videos along the same vein, like my favorite bosses, or maybe I just rank all the games I've played so far on a tier list or something like that. I think that'd be kind of fun. But anyways, guys, if you want to see more of me, hit that subscribe button. I am still trying to get to 1,000 subs. If you could do me a solid and hit that subscribe button, that would be doing me a huge favor, and I would appreciate it so much, man. But if you never want to watch me again and we never cross paths, brother, I hope you have a good life. And if you do want to watch more of me, hit that sub button. And then, hey, hopefully I get to see you in the next one. Bye.